The Boy from Yesterday. Just a reminder, please leave a rating and a review wherever you find your podcasts, and let's help spread the word of the story to people all over the world so they can enjoy it too. And now, Chapter 20, Food for Thought. As they entered the Rocket Diner, Laurel's heart raced with anxiety about how all this was going to go. She got close to Tom as they entered the doorway and whispered, "Just go with it. I'll help you." Tom smiled and nodded, though Laurel thought he looked a little pale going into this new environment. Stores had been one thing, which were different enough, but were still in some way similar to the seller-buyer arrangement he knew from working at a busy general store. The Rocket Diner was different from any cafe Tom had ever been to, and he had just not eaten in restaurants much in his time. Tom looked in the scene as they entered, and with waitresses gliding around in their light blue uniforms, and the group taking up residence at their usual booth by the door. Even their seating arrangement was similar. Laurel on the right, Emily on the left, going in first, TJ following and sitting on her right. Tom sat next to Laurel on her left. They had barely sat down before Trixie arrived at their table, pad and pen in hand, ready to take their order. Tom was confident and took the lead. "What's the bill of fare, miss?" he blurted. No sooner had he said that than he realized that there was something about what he said, or how he said it, that wasn't quite right. Laurel smiled and came to the rescue before anyone else could say anything, which she feared would be someone confronting Tom on how he spoke. "He's Canadian," she laughed, "and we just saw an old movie where they asked that. He means, and he'd like to know, and I'd like to know if there are any specials today. You know, kind of in the mood for something new." Trixie just grinned. "Oh, okay, sure. Who's your friend?" Laurel introduced Tom to Trixie, practicing again her exchange student ruse. Trixie moved her pen to her left hand and shook Tom's hand with her right, then re-grabbed the pen and started pointing in the air, enumerating the specials. "There's some roast beef, which Carl makes pretty rare, ew, gross, and a Texas chili, which is kind of hot, which is how I like it, and soup of the day is pea soup with yesterday's ham special in it. Oh, and I think halibut fillet is the fish. And the vegetables of the day are sautéed artichokes, carrots, and cauliflower. I like that with a little butter on top." Tom heard several things that sounded just like home, especially the roast beef, pea soup, and carrots, but he didn't know what a heart of choke was. Emboldened by the familiarity, he piped up again. "No calf's head? Or mutton with currant jelly?" Again, TJ, Emily, and Trixie had this flash on their faces like he had spoken some unknown foreign language. "What?" was all Trixie could manage. TJ felt sorry for what seemed to be the obvious cultural adjustment of a rural Canadian and tried to spare Tom's feelings by intervening with Trixie, as Laurel had done before. "Currant jelly. It was a delicacy a long time ago, really just kind of a gourmet thing now." Then to Tom, "Rocket Diner has a ways to go before it's considered gourmet. I'd stick with the basics." Laurel was getting nervous about how to get through the meal now. They hadn't been there 2 minutes. She looked over the menu. I think I'll just stick to the ham with the applesauce on the side and the peas and a coffee. I could use a little boost." Tom took the cue. "That all sounds grand. I'll have the same, please, if I may, miss." TJ just raised eyebrows at the Canadian's impeccable manners and silently gave a look to Emily that said, "Get her with some manners over here." Emily was last. "Pea soup with some toast, please." "Great," Trixie chirped, then to Tom, a sincere, "Welcome to Rocket." Tom was comforted to find something familiar to eat that he liked, and he even liked the company, for although he thought women, like Laurel and Emily, to be awfully outspoken for ladies, and wasn't used to seeing Negroes, African Americans, as Laurel had explained earlier gently as they saw people on the sidewalk, dine with whites, he ultimately thought it made sense, and then wondered why people in his own time were so anxious about all that, which for the first time made Tom think that perhaps his time was the odd time to live in, not the present world he found himself in. Somehow Laurel and Tom made it through lunch at the Rocket Diner. Laurel used her credit card to treat everyone, as she had done at all the stores that day, thanks to her generous trust fund that her parents had left her, but that her friends were gracious enough not to abuse. She didn't want to get into another situation with Tom somehow being unfamiliar with modern money. Tom still didn't quite understand how you can pay for things at a merchant's with a little sheet of colored glass, as he thought it was, as plastic was very new to him, and he was quietly appalled that a lady would pay, or even could, but he learned to take his cues from Laurel and just not say much, for fear that something, even the most innocent comment, would reveal that he was more than just Canadian. But for all this inward awe, amusement, confusion, and questioning, Tom very much looked the part of a contemporary friend of the group, in his fashionable new clothes, laughing and talking about how a man across the restaurant from them looked like a bulldog. If you saw the table of friends from even a short distance, no one would ever know the difference.